Mayonnaise is a simple ingredient with a critical mission in professional kitchens. So why is selecting the right mayonnaise so complex? From extra heavy duty to real super premium, the category terminology causes unnecessary confusion. And the lack of standardization can lead to disappointing results, dissatisfied customers, and costly waste. Visit venturafoods.com/mayo needs to help you find the right mayonnaise for your operation.
Hello, and welcome to Menu Talk with Pat and Bret. I am your co-host, Bret Thorn, Senior Food and Beverage Editor of Nation's Restaurant News and Restaurant Hospitality.
And I am Pat Cobe, Senior Menu Editor of Restaurant Business. Welcome.
How you doing, Pat?
I'm doing well. It's been a nice weekend in New York. No rain for a change, so that was nice.
Yeah, it was a very pleasant weekend, and I took the opportunity to check out a new restaurant. Well, it's not a new restaurant, a restaurant that's new to me in my neighborhood on the edge of Sheepshead Bay. It's a 25-year-old restaurant called Clementi's, and they focus on, they call themselves a Maryland-style crab house. And I went there with a friend who is from Maryland and who goes there with some frequency. And we got a whole bunch of blue crabs, steamed and tossed in Old Bay seasoning, and we ate them. And like a dozen of them were like $43, which is a really good deal in New York City.
Did you have to use the mallets and break the shells?
Well, I got to use the mallets. I like that. Well, I used like a nutcracker. But yeah, I used that. I really enjoy eating that way. I know some people find it to be too much work, but I am going to, I have a couple of them left over, so I'm going to have to take them apart tonight and pick the meat and do something with them. Maybe cook them with scrambled eggs.
Sounds good.
Or crab salad with just a light, maybe add a little bit of sour cream, maybe some black pepper. That could be good.
Yeah, I actually had a lobster roll this weekend. So I had my first lobster roll of the summer, but it was in Manhattan, but it was actually at Chelsea Market where the lobster company is. And it was a good lobster roll.
Yeah, they have that huge, like it's sort of a retail space, but also restaurant and stuff. Yeah. That's a good one. I don't like to invest in lobster rolls. They're a lot. I really only like the Connecticut style one with the melted butter, not the warm one, not the cold one.
Those are harder to find.
Yes. And you need really good lobster for it. So
for sure.
For any of them, you want good lobster. Obviously. And you were doing some beverage reporting this week, as I understand it.
Yeah, well, I went to Luckin Coffee, which opened 2 locations in New York City. I just wanted to see what it was all about because I think it's the most popular coffee chain in China and has more locations than Starbucks worldwide, from what I understand. But the 2 that opened in New York are both in Manhattan. One is in the Nomad district, which is in the 20s around Broadway, and the other, I believe, is in Greenwich Village. But so it's a very small footprint. You have to order ahead. There's no way you can go up to the counter and order your drink. You have to order either on the app or when you get in there, there's a QR code and you can order that way. There were a lot of young Asian customers in there. I think I was the only older non-Asian person, but then some other people came in, but it was very, very crowded. It was around 4 p.m, so it's not like prime time for coffee, but I actually had a pineapple coconut kind of drink that was really very good. Not too sweet. It had little bits of pineapple in it and little pieces of coconut. And I think it was called Golden Summer. So it was a summery beverage. They had quite a lot. And actually, if you were a first-time customer, which I was, you got a huge discount on this drink. It was only $1.99.
Oh.
Which is very unusual for a, beverage drink in New York.
Well, and if you'd had a hip flask of rum, you could have put some in there and you'd have a pina colada.
True. But it was really an interesting, setup. Most of the space is dedicated to the back of the house where they're actually making the drinks. There is very, very limited seating. I think there were like maybe 3 seats and everybody else was standing around. And I took my drink outside because it was a little crowded in there, but
Makes
it was actually very good.
And so you decided to get a kind of fruity, non-caffeinated drink instead of coffee? How come?
Well, I don't drink coffee that late in the day. I pretty much drink coffee in the morning.
Smart.
So yeah, I didn't want more caffeine, but they had quite a selection of non-caffeinated drinks.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the trend in coffee houses, or to have energy drinks, which, I just read some sort of data point that said that Gen Z people have more stress and anxiety than anybody else. And I kind of feel like maybe they shouldn't be drinking 300 milligrams of caffeine in the afternoon then with their energy drinks. Whoa, they're jolting. And then Starbucks also rolled out its Strato Frappuccino, the Strato being Italian for layered. And basically it's Frappuccino and you could put their cold foam on top, which you could always do if you asked the barista, but now you can do it on the app. And
Right.
I think that's a very good big deal. And they're in some quite interesting flavors, really. Like there's a brown sugar Strato cappuccino. It has brown sugar cold foam on top, and then a dusting of cinnamon, and then a strawberry matcha one, and that has strawberry cold foam on top, and salted caramel mocha, which is a coffee-based frappuccino with a salted caramel cold foam. So that's pretty fun.
Sounds pretty good. I mean, yeah, a lot of beverages this week for sure. I mean, Burger King also came out with this frozen cotton candy that's kind of a powder blue color, very interesting color, and that also has foam on top. Foam seems to be the thing right now.
Oh, for sure. And lots of drinks topped with foam. And Legal Seafoods joined the casual dining seafood chain out of Boston, joined the dirty soda bandwagon. I think they did that a couple weeks ago, actually.
Well, Logan Roadhouse just did it too. They came up with their line of dirty soda. So dirty soda as a, branding is really catching on.
And Freddy's frozen custard and steak burgers has what they're calling a Dr. Pepper Frost, which is frozen custard blended with Dr. Pepper, which isn't quite a dirty soda. It's more like sort of what Chick-fil-A does with its frosted coffee and frosted lemonade, but not do it with Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, it's really, there are a number of mocktails too, mocktail inspired drinks that are happening at coffee chains like Dutch Bros just introduced, and they're actually calling them mocktails. And one is patterned after a mudslide, and another is patterned after, they all have cold foam too. Another is a strawberry colada, which is like a pina colada. And then there's a blue lagoon with blue raspberry and passion fruit.
Those all sound fun. I mean, I would rather drink black coffee myself, but I respect the appeal of these very colorful, very flavorful, and texturally different drinks. The layers, I think, are important. Maybe more so for social media than for sipping on. I don't know. I'm not sure why people want their drinks to be so complicated, but they do. And so keep that in mind, audience.
The layers, the fact that they're layering these different, flavors and colors and making these drinks. I mean, Instagrammability was always big, but I think the layering, maybe it gives you a different flavor sensation when you sip through it.
Yeah, I mean, or conversation starter, all sorts of things. I tend to get the foam on my nose, which it kind of makes for cute social media videos, but I have to carry a napkin with me. And then, of course, chicken wraps keep happening. Sonic came out with a new one that was $1.99, which is cheaper than the other ones. And White Castle just upgraded its chicken slider. A little crispier and buttermilkier, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, crispy is the watchword right now.
Well, yeah, I love crispy. And I also went to an interesting event that Chef David Burke threw at his Park Avenue kitchen. His chef has developed a pastrami, and he thinks it's pretty good. So he invited a bunch of food writers and some restaurateurs and influencers and stuff to come in and do a blind tasting of his pastrami sandwich with a bunch of big name pastrami sandwiches, including like old standby New York City places like Sarge's, Katz's, Pastrami Queen, Second Avenue Deli, and did I say Pastrami Queen already? Oh, and Carnegie Deli, which now doesn't have a restaurant anymore, but they do mail order, and I think they're in a ballpark or something.
Well, yeah, they're in Madison Square Garden too.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we all got there. We went to his restaurant, and they brought out 6 sort of quarter sandwiches for us all to try and note and remark upon. And so it was a little tilted in David Burke's favor anyway, because it was his restaurant, and he could, make sure that their pastrami was the best that it could be for that pastrami. But nonetheless, it won. Different judges scored it differently, obviously, but his sandwich got the most points, followed by Sarge's, and then Second Avenue Deli, Katz's. Carnegie Deli actually came in last.
I'm surprised Katz's came in so far down, because that's like the benchmark in New York City, I thought.
Yes. Well, and you've judged enough things, and I've judged enough things to know that, it can be kind of arbitrary and up to the whims of the judges. And I don't think I've ever been in a judging competition where the judges weren't taking it seriously, but we all are individuals and have our own tastes and notions and moods of the day. So I understand why when people win a contest, they want to shout out from the rooftops, but I think that should always be taken with a grain of salt.
So is David Burke actually curing the pastrami in-house?
Yeah, his chef is doing it, and his name escapes me at the moment, but his chef there is doing it in-house. And of course, David Burke invented pastrami salmon, which is a signature of his. And he's thinking of doing a special, maybe on a Thursday or a Tuesday, of doing like a pastrami Tuesday, in which he'll do the pastrami sandwich and the salmon pastrami and a beer or fries or whatever at a discount. The sandwich itself is only like $14, which in New York City,
that's really cheap.
Yeah, for a pastrami sandwich in New York City is a good deal.
Because I think at Second Avenue Deli, it's $30 or more.
Something like that. Yeah, I went to Second Avenue Deli. It was a while ago. It was before the pandemic, and I met with a friend of mine who was in town. We went there, and they're huge. They're massive sandwiches. So I took half of it home, and there was a guy sleeping on the bench of my subway station. So I offered it to him, and he took it, and then he said, "This doesn't have Russian dressing on it, does it?" And I thought of taking my sandwich back, but whatever. I mean, you're not homeless and sleeping on a bench because you are socially adept. So, he got his free sandwich.
Yeah, I usually put mustard on, but I guess some people do Russian dressing.
Yeah, I also put mustard on. I'm not a Russian dressing guy, and neither was this guy sleeping on a bench in the subway. Not want Russian dressing. So, it's a good sandwich. I like the Second Avenue Deli sandwich. And I also like our guest for this week, who is the celebrity chef Tyler Florence.
Cool.
Yes, we had a really lovely conversation. He just relocated Wayfair Tavern, which has been in San Francisco for 15 years. He relocated it to a much larger space. And he also has Miller and Lux, which is a somewhat fancier restaurant. And it has a location, one in San Francisco and one on the Big Island of Hawaii. And we talked about that, among many other things. And I asked him a lot about being a celebrity chef, because I think it's weird to be a celebrity chef. And he's sort of one of the old school ones. And And that means that, maybe some of the old school ones are jerks, but I find that the ones who have been doing it for a while are quite grounded. And Tyler Florence definitely was. And I asked him, why don't you promote Wayfair Tavern as being yours? Like, why aren't you like the mascot of Wayfair Tavern? And
Mm.
he had some really interesting responses about that I'm not going to preview because I want everyone to listen to it. But he talked about what it means to run like a standby restaurant in San Francisco that will stand the test of time. Celebrity Chef is not part of that. And we also talked quite a bit about San Francisco and how it's doing because it has a reputation of like just like New York does of having collapsed under the weight of I don't know chaos and crime and nonsense. New York is doing fine. San Francisco is also doing fine. Although he did say that it had some rough years, and I hope you all will enjoy listening to what Tyler Florence has to say as much as I enjoy talking to him. How you doing, Tyler Florence?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm good. Glad to talk to you about what you're working on. You redid your flagship recently, right? Wayfair Tavern?
Yeah. So Wayfair Tavern just moved. Gosh, we're celebrating 15 years in San Francisco now, which has just been wonderful. So the new location is on the corner of Battery and Pine, and John De La Cruz, the designer, reimagined to a T. He just nailed it. Such an elegant new vision for the restaurant without losing the soul of the old one. And it's like this really beautiful progression of this new, what it, and honestly, like if you just take me out of it, right? Like, of course, like I'm biased, but if you like, this feels like a legendary restaurant in San Francisco, and they only come around every so often. Like there's like Stars, and there's Tadich, and there's Sam's, and these places that are just perennial and around forever, or around for a really long time anyway. And Wayfair Tavern feels like that new forever restaurant, and people love it. Everybody in San Francisco got the signal. We're packed, and it's great to feel San Francisco just re-engaging with the city one more time, because it's been a long 5 years of just sort of kind of dead air. And so we're just thrilled. The restaurant's amazing.
So why did you move and how is the new one different?
Well, we moved because we just need more room. We were just sort of like busting at the seams of the old space, and we wanted to grow, and we felt like we could grow, we could do more, but there's just a limited. The other space was like surprisingly small. It was only 25 seats on the ground floor and 40 seats on the second floor, and then we had a PDR for this at 42 people. We had another bar on the fifth floor that could hold another 40 people. So we just didn't have like, going from 20 people to 60 people, or even having like a sit down dinner space for 100 people. Like we just didn't have those capabilities. And so sometimes you get these requests for like weddings or big corporate events that just want to do a larger group. And we were always just sort of kind of boxed out of that based on just the limitations of the space. So my partners happened to own another building around the corner. And so when our lease was up with this one, we just said, okay, we love the space, and it's a beautiful building. It's a great building. Whoever takes it next, they're in really great shape because such great mojo. That was Rubicon for 14 years, and it was Wayfair Tavern for 14 years. So whoever gets it next, they've got some really great mojo there. But the new space is just kind of like this new forever restaurant. We love it.
So what you said it's a forever kind of restaurant. What are its qualities that make it that?
I could tell you my side of it, and then I think, just talking to people that have walked up to me during the first like 5-6 weeks of us being opened, and then hearing all the stories of all the celebrations and all the, husband wife date nights, and all of the, after the game, we always go to Wayfair stories, and every birthday we always come to celebrate this. And so I think there's just magic, right? I mean, there's three parts to a very successful restaurant. The ambiance has to be transporting. It's got to take you someplace. And I think we do a really good story, really good job of telling the story of San Francisco, right? This is a San Franciscan restaurant. This is like this will never be in Vegas. This will never be in Chicago. You'll never see one in Los Angeles. Like there's one of one. There's one Wayfair Tavern, right? And so and then the food has to be singular, right? And I think we put fried chicken on the map 15 years ago, and now there's this new fried chicken kind of revolution on the West Coast. And I'm not saying we had 100% to do with that, because I think trends are just trends, but definitely we were there first. And then I think the service just has to be stellar, and so I think we're just kind of best in category in all three of those columns, and the restaurant experience just speaks for itself. So I think when you kind of walk in and vote, okay, and like, why here? Why now? Like, why wait for a tavern? Why you? Right? Why this place? Why? Right? I think you kind of walk in, and then it's very self-explanatory. Like, there's just a vibe of the restaurant that just feels fun. It feels very engaging. The room is beautiful. I curate not only the food and the service experience, but also the music, right? So you just kind of walk in the door and you just kind of settle into it, and you're going to have a good time for 90 minutes or an hour or stay all day. We don't care.
Well, it sounds like it's a place that people use both for everyday and special occasions. How did you manage that?
It's if you're a great neighborhood restaurant, if you're a great city restaurant that doesn't feel like it's either one or the other, right? It's like because like Miller and Lux are steakhouse, and I want to talk about that too. Like that's a very special restaurant. Like that's like we've been the Michelin Guide for the last 4 years. Like we just got named best steakhouse in the San Francisco Bay Area for the third year in a row. We're also at the Four Seasons Hawaii and Hawaii, and so that's like a really very, very special place. And then kind of going down the vertical, Wayfair Tavern feels like that great restaurant that you just want to, kind of celebrate a couple times a month, and it's a great place to kind of jump into it.
That's cool. And probably a nice spot to hit, because if people want to come in and have a reasonable meal, something they're not going to have to sell a kidney to pay for, they can do that. But if they want to splash out, you also have that opportunity. And now in the new space, you can do big events. So that's cool.
Mhm.
Have you been booked for big events? Probably that's already happened, huh?
Yeah, we're packed.
Great. That has to be satisfying, especially in San Francisco, which can be a tricky city to navigate.
San Francisco probably no more or less tricky than any other city. I don't think there's any like particularly like sticky parts of San Francisco. Like they just love quality, right? And it's like they're, we don't. I don't flash like the celebrity side of kind of the business that I'm in, and this is my 29th year on television with Food Network, and I've written 17 cookbooks, and my shows are broadcast in 80 countries around the world, and like I don't even mention that stuff. Like if you walk in the Wayfair Tavern, my name's in on the menu. Like I don't sell my cookbooks at the front door. Like it's not that kind of like restaurant. Like we have a space that is for San Francisco by San Francisco, and I think they really appreciate that. Like when you see me on television, or I just got back from the Aspen Food and Wine Classic, like that's where that famous chef guy, that's where he shows up in San Francisco. That's where I cook, and so I think there's just a mutual respect that we have for the city, and the city has for what we do, and that's just because like we just roll up our sleeves and put our back into it, and there's just quality across the board.
How did you figure out not to like put yourself as sort of the mascot of the restaurant, if you will? Because there has to be pressure. Like you can carry a lot with your name and your personality. So why did you do the math not to do that with Wayfair Tavern?
With the mutual respect of restaurants, and then kind of having a good sense of self-awareness, right? Like it's just never been my thing. Like I don't own a level of narcissism that kind of comes along with like, see me, look at me, here's my thing. I don't put myself in as a hero in the mutual story of myself and our guests. I put them as the hero. So the intersections that we create where you're going to find something delicious, I want you to be in charge of that, right? So we happen to be driving, but I want you to have the experience. So it's never really anything that we've ever kind of put forward from a celebrity perspective. And I think that sort of like lends to the longevity of how long I've been doing this. I mean, there's 29 years on Food Network. I've seen a lot of people come and go. But it's never really been my thing to make my restaurants like a gift shop. I think it's pretty tacky.
How did you figure that out? Because it can be hard when people are paying that kind of attention to you, not to let it get to your head and become sort of a narcissistic egomaniac. Like, did you have a good upbringing, or just, you're a grounded human being, or how did that come about?
I think I have a really good sense of awareness. Like I think I can read the room really well. And it's never been my thing. Like I like my experience and our food quality and our service quality to do the talking.
That's great. And you have another restaurant concept, Miller and Lux, which has two locations, right? You have the one in San Francisco and one in Hawaii.
Yeah, we sure do. Yeah. So we've been at the Chase Center, home of the Golden State Warriors, and also the Golden State Valkyries, which are very excited about our new WNBA team, who are crushing it, by the way, if you follow basketball. They're having a very good inaugural season. And so what we're very excited to be there. We've been the Michelin Guide for the last 4 years in a row. And like I said, we've been named best steakhouse in the San Francisco Bay Area by San Francisco Magazine for the last 3 years. And 4 seasons, Miller and Lux of the Four Seasons Halalai just got named best restaurant on the Big Island, which is kind of cool, but Honolulu Magazine, which is really great. So, we're really kind of getting this like best, the best thing. And that's where I think we're always climbing to. Like I'm a luxury brand, right? Like the Great Food Truck Race and a lot of the things that we kind of work on are super fun, and we're very appreciative and love all those big mass things that we work on. But our heart and our creativity and our drive is just to be the best. We want to be the best, and so Miller and Lux is our expression of that.
Well, and that has to be hard in the steakhouse world, because there are a lot of great steakhouses, and the menus tend to be quite similar. So what do you think are the distinguishing characteristics that make Miller and Lux the best?
Well, Miller and Lux, from a steakhouse perspective, if you say Italian, your creativity is going to start to fill in the blanks. Or if you say sushi, your creativity is going to start to fill in the blanks. You're going to start to paint a picture in your mind of what you're going to expect, because everyone's had sushi a million times, and everyone's had Italian, and everyone's had a steakhouse experience too, right? So you can't take everybody in a whole new direction, because you're going to throw them for a loop, and that's not where nostalgic loyalty comes from. Like you want people to feel like this is this space where my grandfather came and my father came, and I'm coming, I'm taking my children and my children's children. Like, you want to build this legacy restaurant that stands for quality and stands a test of time. And so I think I've always loved the steakhouse ceremony. I think all of the bells and whistles that kind of come along with that. I think you have to fill in the blanks, but it's up to us to be best in category, best in class. So our steak program, for example, is truly unique and truly singular. We curate our steaks with a ranch in Aberdeen, South Dakota called Dimcoda. And our beef is Black Angus Prime Plus, because the marbling is off the scale of the USDA grading system, and it's just so spectacular. And beef has real terroir, right? The way that red wine can taste different from from Piemonte to the left bank of France to Napa Valley. Like red wine, it's really about the terroir and the grape and the differences between the two. And beef is not beef. Beef is like there's like definitely differences on where the cows are raised and what grass they're fed on. And so like the buffalo grass that our Black Angus cattle feed on for a majority of their life cycle is the same buffalo grass that the American buffalo roamed on for millions of years. And they're basically wild animals. They kind of live outside for most of their life. Another grain finished on a mixture of corn and barley for about 250 days, and they really just kind of developed a spectacular marbling on top of that. So you get a really good, sustainable, humane grain finishing process, and then you also get like the terroir of like the buffalo grass and the genetics of the spectacular beef itself, and also the family element of all that too, which is another thing I'm really proud about. Like we buy all of our cattle from legacy family owned ranches in a 150-mile circle in and around Demcota. So they're all just like families that have been doing it. My grandfather raised cattle, my dad raises cattle, and so we're kind of celebrating those American families too, which is really special. And then it comes like the really great editorial process of the dry age, and this is where I think our beef becomes incredibly special. And this is where the hard work comes in, right? So we take our beef and we put it through a 45-day dry age. Half of it happens in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and the second half happens in Richmond, California, at our distributor partnership with Allen Brothers. So the second half of that dry aging process happens in their dry aging space here in San Francisco. So it's kind of close to the restaurant, and this also is where it gets shipped from here to Hawaii as well. And so our steaks are singular. Our steaks are just incredibly special. You can't get our beef anywhere else on planet Earth than Miller and Lux Hawaii and Miller and Lux in San Francisco, and we're just really really proud of that, right? And then if you open up a steakhouse menu and you start to see some fairly familiar ranches, right? Like there's Idaho, there's Nebraska, there's Texas, there's these things that I could literally, no disrespect to any of it because it's all really delicious. I could probably buy the stuff at Costco. Right. I could probably you can't get our beef. You can't get your hands on our beef anywhere else in planet Earth other than our restaurant. So I think going the extra mile and doing the hard work to really curate a sustainable long-term program, long-term relationship with it, it's what makes the beef so special. And if you're going to have a steakhouse, the beef has to be number one. And then also our seafood and shellfish program is second to none. It's the America's finest seafood. Our jumbo shrimp are flown in from the Gulf of Mexico twice a week. Our lobsters get flown in from Maine. They've never been in a tank. Our oysters. I actually have an estuary in the kitchen where we keep our oysters alive, which and no one else in America even has this. I saw it in Hong Kong about 10 years ago and it blew my mind. And so it's like this this tank where the water is not acidulated, but salinated and then pH balanced to the ocean. And chilled. So the water is about 40 degrees. And so the oysters still think they're in a tidal pool. Which is why the oysters get rained on all for 24 hours a day, and you can actually look really really close and watch them kind of open up a little bit because they're alive. And if you've ever had and the next time you go to a restaurant and you order a dozen oysters, and then the oysters they're not bad, but they're flabby. And they're a little sort of sad, right? You're going to kind of understand what I'm talking about. So our oysters are unstressed, are just plump and just delicious as if you just pulled them out of the ocean. And there's a lot of care that kind of comes along with that. Also, our tableside service is really special as well. I'm a restaurant kid of the 80s. So a lot of the service styles that I grew up with, and being a busboy, and I started out as a dishwasher, and then as a back waiter, all these things, like we would have crepe Suzette, and we would have there was flambe tableside, and we would do a tableside Caesar salad, and we would have like duck carved to the table, and all these kind of things, which are really wonderful. I worked in fine dining my whole life, right? And so we've reintroduced this to a whole new generation of folks who have never even really experienced like a great tableside program. So when you come join us at Miller and Lux in San Francisco and also Hawaii, you're going to get graded with an amuse-bouche. And this cycle, we have this really kind of wonderful tart we call a French onion tart. It has a sherried caramelized onion jam and then a mousse of Gruyere cheese, and it's got shaved black truffle on top of it. And you pop it, and it's one bite. And so that's the greet, which is really kind of wonderful. And then the champagne cart will find you. Our sommelier will kind of roll by with some of the best bubbles out of the Champagne region in France. And then if you didn't get the Caesar salad at Miller and Lux, you kind of didn't go. So our Caesar salad, Forbes magazine called the best Caesar salad in America. I'm being biased. I agree. I think it's a very, very special thing. It gets the dressing gets made tableside. The lettuces are hand grown for us in Santa Cruz, California. It's Starving Farms, and so it's just spectacular. You can taste the nutrition in the lettuce. It's so delicious. And then our Dover sole, which I'm very proud of too. That's a very special dish. Dover sole Meuniere has been on the menu since day one. And it's a very, very special fish. We have flown in a couple times a week from our fishmonger partnership with the company in France, which is really great. And so it's harvested in the English Channel in between England and France, and it's just so spectacular. I mean, and especially the kind of way we cook it, because we just nail it. We nail it every time. Like it's just like it's so moist and soft and just delicious. And so that happens tableside too, which is really great. So I think there's and then there's just the romance of the room, right? And so I think the architecture, like this mid-century beautiful, steakhouse vibe, where the room just kind of feels cozy, and like the music just swings. Like I'm a big mid-century American jazz fan, so like the music is just kind of on point, and you kind of get there and just kind of fall into the groove of the room, which is wonderful. And also this other thing, which I think is really special too, like the restaurant is like all booth construction. All right, so like I'm not a big fan of loose tables in the middle of the dining room. You know, I think they can feel kind of clunky sometimes. So having like these big beautiful booths in a restaurant, and if you look at the restaurant from a couple of different angles, it almost kind of looks like a spinal column, which is kind of wild, right? But like it's a whole booth kind of configuration, and they're super cozy for like a date night with two people or four people or six or even eight if you want to squeeze in. But it's just like the restaurant just wraps its arms around you when you sit down, and you just kind of settle in for what has been the best steakhouse experience in the San Francisco Bay Area for the last 3 years in a row. And we walk the walk and talk the talk every single day.
Is that when Miller and Lux opened 3 years ago?
No, we opened September 28th, 2021.
Gotcha. So 4 years.
Yeah. We'll be four in September.
So you were named the best place pretty early on. So that's nice. Is there a reason for in terms of the quality of the steak, for having it dry aged in two different places, or is that just a logistical thing that they age it for a while in the Midwest and then they bring it back?
Yeah, it's just a logistics thing, right? Their steakhouse, their dry age facility in South Dakota is small, so it transfers there and then transfers to the new space, which is bigger.
Makes sense. I love the idea of having an estuary in your restaurant.
Thank you.
So it's designed to be where the oysters would grow anyway. So as you said, they don't know. They don't know they're
Yeah,
not.
they don't know. Yeah, they're not they're very delicious, but not very intelligent, right? So they're very happy. They're very happy, and they're very cozy. And we've actually done tests to kind of see how long we can keep them alive. And we've had like oysters kind of living there for 45 days, and so they're just like super fun. Yeah, it's great.
And I'm sure that makes a huge difference in the way they taste, because I've definitely had
Gosh. Yeah. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. You get an oyster, and it's just sort of like, because they begin to what they call metastasize, right? They start to eat themselves, and so because like normally an oyster program at a restaurant, you'll get the bag in from the fish supplier, and then they go into a 2-inch perforated hotel pan underneath a 4-inch or a 6-inch. They get covered in ice, and then just basically kind of sit there and like just sort of slowly break down on the inside. And not that they're bad, but they're not just like, you could tell that the oyster is just going through stress, right? The oysters are stressed. And so ours are just kind of like plump and delicious. And, I think every time because when I go in the restaurant every night, I line check. So it's like the last thing I do before service starts, and it's like spoons out. I taste every sauce. I'll taste an oyster. I'll taste the tuna tartare that goes to the tacos. I'll taste the steak tartare. I'll taste all the sauces. I'll examine all the steaks and stuff like that, and then I'll pop an oyster. I'm like, God, it's just so briny and silky, and like the mouth feels really good, and they just take like a sip of the seawater. It's so good.
And there is such a huge difference between like a perfectly fine oyster and a great oyster. I just spent the weekend in Boston, and I live in New York City, but in Boston, the seafood generally tastes better. And I think it's just that the audience demands it, that New England customers are just slightly more fussy about their seafood, and so it tastes better.
Yeah, I mean, even in Boston, I mean, like, so there, there's a Cape, but this right there, there's like a really kind of deep, the Manhattan is really an island. Like, I lived in New York City for 15 years, right? And so you got to truck everything in. So there's always like what they call like road miles on all the food every time it comes in. It's like you either like pulling from the Hudson Valley, you're pulling from central New Jersey, you're pulling from Pennsylvania, or you're pulling from, up and down the seaboard, like there's nothing close. Like everything has got to get trucked in. But in Boston, it's just kind of right there. So, it's like, it's one of the reasons that moving to California, immediately, like it's wild how, from a creative standpoint, you just have better material to work with, right? And it's one of the greatest things I love about being a chef here in California. It's like our long, sustained growing seasons, our really warm, long summers. Like we just leave things on the vine for another 2 or 3 weeks, and let the minerality and the sugar and the flavor and the terroir and the root system just really sort of stress and kind of pull those flavor profiles. Like you'll taste a tomato like you've never tasted it before. You'll taste a fig or an apricot or a peach like you've just never had one before. And so, that's one of the wonderful things that I love about just being a sort of a storyteller just like really great farmers and a lot of our, and that's another thing that I really like to do. Like I want to just kind of take your stuff, manipulate it, barely like put one knife cut through it, and then kind of put it on a plate and make it really successful. So your story is part of our story that'll the customers will really enjoy.
That sounds great. And how is San Francisco doing? I was there in December, I think, and I live in New York, and New York and San Francisco both have kind of similar reputations on the national stage these days, which is that they were destroyed by COVID and are collapsing and in miserable shape, and it doesn't bear out in reality. Everybody in San Francisco seemed to be doing okay, but I was only there for a few days, and in New York we're fine. So, like, what's your thought on that?
So I think in the media, if it bleeds, it leads, so it's always kind of fun to see, or even make politicized like American cities and blame people from what's happening, whatever it is, right? And nobody wanted to get COVID wrong. Nobody wanted to say, okay, we're shutting the city down, or we're not shutting the city down at all, or masks or no masks. Like who on God's green earth could have possibly gotten that right with full confidence of what they were going to do, right? Like it was a terrifying experience. And so some cities, fared better. It's like Texas, obviously, had something going on. Florida had something going on, like their politics or not, it doesn't matter. Like those cities fared through the economic tailwind of the pandemic for sure. New York City bounced back fast just because it's like an economic, capital of the world. But what really kind of hit San Francisco hardest, which is kind of wild, is our tech culture. About 157,000 people decided to just leave the city.
Whoa.
So, and out of a with less than 700,000 people, it's about the same square footage as Paris, but Paris has 2 million people and San Francisco has 700,000, right? And so 157,000 people who are, high net worth earners who go out to restaurants and, go to the park and walk their dogs and, put their kids in public school and pay taxes and that kind of stuff. Like they just vanished, and they went to LA, they went to Seattle, they went to Austin, they went to Miami. They just left, right? They went to Nashville. We got a really big uptick and people that just moved there. Beautiful city, by the way. I love Nashville. And so what is happening is all those people are coming back, and because they got to this. So this is where, San Francisco is and always will be a boom and bust sort of environment. And, I've been here for 17 years now. And I was here for 2008, just, it was the same sort of kind of economic crisis that happened all over the world. 2018 was particularly bad. And then there was the 2020 pandemic, which was just devastating for everybody in the world. And so, but what San Francisco just does really, really well, and it's just part of our endearing forever culture is our ability to just attract very creative dreamers that have the idea that will change the world. And so we just have a lot of those people here. And so, there's 342,000 millionaires that live in the Bay Area. There's 300 billionaires that live in the Bay Area. The Bay Area, without a question, it's the richest, part of one of the richest parts of America for sure. The average median income of the San Francisco Bay Area, and there's 7.2 million people that live in the Bay Area, is $120,000, which is really high. So there's a lot, and we pay a lot of taxes, but we don't. We just, like, the weather's really great here, you know what I mean? And so every place has their social ills, I mean, like Washington, D.C. and New York City kind of went through crack cocaine in the 80s, and that was really terrible. And Miami went through cocaine in the 70s, and that was really terrible. And so we went through fentanyl in the 20s, right? And that was just really devastating. And we're still going through it. And that's a drug like no other that has the ability to just sort of like rip your life apart the first time you try it. And so, when the city was abandoned from the stay-at-home order that kind of came down straight through Sacramento, our unhoused culture really began to thrive because they just were unfettered and they could just kind of, just sort of, take over a park and, pop their tent up and they live there and whatever. And so there has to be this balance. In my personal opinion, I think it's very inhumane to leave people on the streets, right? I think it's, it's like like I have the right to, kind of live wherever I want to live and sleep wherever I want to sleep there. And, but I also think in a way that it's just kind of cruel at the same time. Like you have no facilities, and so I think we're trying to figure it out, but the uptick in the business has been between 2019, which is kind of like the benchmark of kind of where we are. 2024 was the economic bottom. That was the bottom in San Francisco. That was really, last year was really bad. It was sort of like the last part of the comet tail of the whatever metaphor you want to use for the pandemic. And it was just like we had no convention business. Like in 2019, we had 47 conventions, big, huge conventions roll through town. And in 2024, we had 14.
Mm.
And so if you take that convention business out of a big major city that really kind of counts on that, especially from a retail standpoint, and that's where I live, like that's pretty devastating. That's really devastating. That's big, huge dollars and big culture. And then this year, we're going to have 32. Right. So that's coming back, and next year's going to be even bigger. And then 2027, we're getting like the fancy food show back, which we're really excited about too, because that was a big thing here in San Francisco forever. And so and also AI, which starts to feel like this big new, I'm gonna say the word bubble, but it feels like this new big thing is really starting to become something big again. And this is where all of the very creative members of our tech culture start to really flex our muscle and show the world what San Francisco is made of, right? So OpenAI is our neighbor at the Chase Center where Miller and Lux is located. They just took over 250,000 square feet. And one of the towers that Uber has. Uber's also our neighbor. So is the biotech community, which is great. Visa just opened their worldwide headquarters, and Mission Rock, which is like this new little mini mega city, which is in between Chase Center and Oracle Park, where the Giants play baseball. And so everything's just starting to kind of pop in the right direction. It's starting to pop in the right direction. So like everything, to answer your question, everything that you've seen on television was true 2-3 years ago, for sure. We really, really went through it. And as a guy who travels a lot, I'm on like 90 planes a year, like that was a big question. Like, oh my God, San Francisco, like how was that? Like, because like the everything that you saw on television was just sort of like this, like kind of, it looked bad. I mean, it was really, really bad. And it kind of was for a while. But we appreciate everybody's support. Like San Francisco's not going anywhere. San Francisco is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It is a world-class dining destination. We have more Michelin stars than anywhere in America. You're going to come to San Francisco and it's a field of dreams when it comes to restaurants. Like you're going to have the dining, you're going to have these epiphanies, these dining moments that are going to change your life forever. Where the chef sort of class that are in San Francisco right now, it's the best chefs the city's ever had, and just the diversification and the cultures mishmashing and all kinds of wonderful stuff is kind of making new flavor profiles the world's never seen before. And San Francisco's always just been first. What happens in the Bay Area, the world responds to, right? And so what San Francisco's cooking, New York City cooks later, right? And Miami cooks later, and Dallas cooks later, and Chicago cooks later. And so we're always leading the pack on those kind of ways. And so it's been a really kind of wild journey to be a part of it. I'm on the board of directors of SF Travel. So, part of my job, not only am I a chef for our company, but I also help promote the city of San Francisco too, to make sure that, because we had this amazing trip in London where we got a chance to really kind of talk about how great the city is. And I cooked a couple of fantastic dinners, which are really cool. So, but it's been really, really interesting. We've learned a lot. It's like, especially kind of coming through it, like our backbone, our metal, right, is really tough. Right, like San Francisco is ready for anything because we just lived through it, right? And so even if like something happens and we got to retreat a little bit, like everybody's got that model kind of on lock and they know how to just sort of react to that in real time. And so we're good. We're good. Like, come see us. It's the most beautiful city in the world. The weather's special. Summers are really great. You're gonna have a really good time here. And I'm talking to you right now from Marin County. I actually live on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge, and that's just God's country. It's so pretty here. So, like California, like I moved here in 2017 and I felt like I'm home, right? Like I love the culture. I love the creative community. And of course the food is just second to none.
2017 or 2007?
I lived here. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, 2007.
I thought that you'd been there longer than that. Yeah. And a lot of the big American cities that for some reason people think are soft are not soft at all, because like they've been through stuff, and like they know how to resound and to
Yeah.
sound and to be.
San Francisco is really tough. We're really, really tough people. And so everything that you read, it's like sometimes like it just feels publicized, right? It's like you kind of focus on, like the negative, and it's not true anymore. Like every city has, deals with our, unhoused citizens, right? Every city deals with some of those, drugs and drug rehabilitation and clinics and social help, and trying to figure out how to, and we all should, right? I mean, we just can't like write recipes for foie gras every day. We have to have a holistic, view of how, an open-eyed view of how to be a good citizen in a city. And so we're definitely part of that.
That's great. And we've been talking for a long time, so I want to wrap it up because I'm sure you have other things to do. But what's next for Tyler Florence? What can we expect?
Gosh, we got a couple of really great projects in the pipeline. A little too early to kind of talk about them, but we got good stuff. The Great Food Truck Race season 18. Been shooting that show for almost 20 years on Food Network. This is my 29th year on the network. That's going to drop in August, which is really kind of exciting. And American Grill, my 17th cookbook, which was published last May, and it was #1 in the barbecue and grilling category when it launched. Like it's 125 recipes for mastering life fire in your backyard. So I'm sure you're going to find some great recipes on how to become the king or queen of your grill and really kind of fall in love with cooking outside.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Menu Talk. Like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Pat Cobe.
And I'm Bret Thorn.
See you next week.
Mayonnaise is a simple ingredient with a critical mission in professional kitchens. So why is selecting the right mayonnaise so complex? From extra heavy duty to real super premium, the category terminology causes unnecessary confusion. And the lack of standardization can lead to disappointing results, dissatisfied customers, and costly waste. Visit venturafoods.com/mayo needs to help you find the right mayonnaise for your operation.